Welcome, everyone. If you're watching this, you're a University of Vermont TA for General Chemistry 31 or 32, and we're talking about Gradescope, which is our online program for grading our mid-semester exams. We are utilizing this program because it has a number of benefits. First off, all exams are basically digitized after the exam, so there's no ability for post-exam cheating by students. Also, when grades are published, all of the exams go back to the students at the same time, so there's ease of distribution of those exams. And then lastly, while we do have to grade things, with a certain timeline, this program does allow us to grade during our schedule, which, at a time that works best for our schedule, that we can do this at any point during the day or night to help out the arduous process of grading so many exams that we have for both 31 and 32. 31 has, maybe 1,000 exams or so. 32, maybe 600 or so. So a lot of exams to get through. So here we're concentrating on the 31-32 training. So we just want to click in that box for the training, and we open up a new window that has some links off to the left, such as dashboard, assignments, roster, as well as instructors of the course. But here we're looking at active assignments, and here's where we would find, our exams that we need to grade, and here's where we find the Gradescope training link. So we click that, and basically that opens up basically an exam, if you will. And so normally, when we open up this link, we will be right at grade submissions, which we see off to the left. Since this is an old exam, this is an old roster, I don't have the ability here to manage submissions, but after the exam is done, the submissions will be managed. All the names will go along with the exam on the computer side of things, and we will be basically logging in to grading submissions. So all we have to do is click that grade submissions link, and we then end up with basically an outline of the exam. Here we see questions 1, 2, and 3 with slight descriptions like Henry's Law, general rates, concentration, and we can go down through basically the entire exam with this outline. Now, in grading these questions, we have two different types of grading questions. One grading question is what's known as a grouping question. The other grading question is going to be a calculational question. With the grouping question, there are two sets of TAs. One is a grouping TA, the other is a checking TA. And that's what we're going to get into first. Then we'll get into the other type of question, which is a calculational question. These questions tend to be given to the upper level TAs who have much more experience, and since we'll find that we'll be grading those somewhat individually, we're not going to be grouping them. Then since that TA is going through each question individually, there is no need to then recheck their work. So let's first look at the grouping / checking TAs and a question that would help us put together the process for grading. And what we find is this first solubility question is a good one to actually look at. So we click on that link to the solubility question, and we find that there are, no groups given, but what we can do is manually group the answers that are provided. If we review these, we'll find that there's really two different answers, and that's what this question is actually asking. It's actually asking what is more soluble in water, sodium chloride versus lithium chloride. And the answer here is sodium chloride. Sodium chloride has weaker electrostatic forces and thus is easier to dissolve into water. As we look, we can see a bunch of answers in front of us, and maybe those are too small. We can use this little dial off to the top right to either increase or decrease the answers so that we can see them in a good light. So the first TA that's looking at this is the grouping TA, and the grouping TA will then go off to the right here and create a group. And we can label that group as, let's say, correct, being our answer of sodium chloride. And so now what I can do is individually click each box that has the sodium chloride answer. I don't need to hold the shift button or the control button. I can simply click. Now you'll notice that there are other types of little things coming up, such as this minus sign for zoom out. If I needed to zoom out, I could zoom out or zoom back in. Or if I needed to see the whole page, I could actually preview this whole submission, and our answer is actually down here at the bottom right. To get back to the pane, I just click outside of that page. Everything is still highlighted, and so I just go through and click all the ones that to me look like they are sodium chloride. And so we have all of these. Oops, that looked right. And now I'm going to click in one of the boxes and hold that click and then drag and put all those 31 answers into the sodium chloride box. I can then add more if I want. For instance, here I see one that's actually sodium chloride as well, and I can throw that in the box. This one kind of looks like sodium chloride, so maybe I can zoom out and maybe see something a little bit better. And oh yeah, that does look like sodium chloride, so I can throw that in the box. Now the rest of the answers are lithium chloride, the incorrect answers. So I'm going to create this other group, and I'm going to put a -2 since that's incorrect. That's the number of points assigned to the point or to the question, and I'm going to say incorrect. And NaCl, not lithium chloride. And I'll say OK. And so now I'll click all of these answers. And there is a function to select all if you want as well. And I'm going to drag those into the box. So at this point, all of those answers have been grouped. So the grouping TA is now actually done with their exercise, and they need to contact now the corresponding checking TA so that that TA can then go through and make sure that all the groups that the grouping TA put together are actually correct. So that grouping TA again would come to this page as far as grading submissions, goes to the question that they are assigned to check, and they see that okay, there are two groups that have been created, and so I'm going to check the first group by simply clicking in that NaCl pane, and so here I see all the answers in that group. Again, I can make things a little bit bigger if I need to make sure all of those are correct, and I walk through that and I see, you know what, all of those look great. So now I'm saying, okay, that one is correct. So now I'm going to go to the next group, which is the icon in the bottom corner. And so now we're looking at the incorrect group, which is lithium chloride. And so as I go down, I see everything looks good. Well, oh, wait a minute. This one actually looks like that might be sodium chloride. So maybe if I zoom out, I can see that. And indeed, I can see that that's actually sodium chloride. To remove it from the group, I can either hit the space bar or I can just click the box. And then it shows us that the answer is removed from the group. Everything else looks fine. And so now notice that there's no other group to go to. So I can review now what is ungrouped. And what I should find is that last one, right? The sodium chloride that I pulled out of the grouping selection is now ungrouped. I know it's the correct answer, so I click and drag and put it in the correct group. Now that all the groups are set and checked, the checking TA goes on to then grade the answers. And so here, if we look at the very top, we're grading by group, and we are now grading the group that is actually correct. Notice that we already have a rubric set up for us on the right side of the pane, and we see that, okay, it's correct, so what I need to do is click that box number 1 saying that it is actually correct. And then I go to the next ungraded answer. Again, we can see at the very top, we're grading by group, and also we are grading now the incorrect group. That should be -2. So we click that 2 in front of the -2 to assign the grade, and then we go to the next ungraded answer. And you can see that pops us back to the grade submission pane because we've graded that entire question. And we can see that as well by going down to the question and seeing that it's 100% graded. And then we can also see off to the right the TA's initials that actually graded as well as checked. So that's the idea with the grouping checking style question. Again, once you're given the questions you're assigned, you will be told whether you're a grouper, a checker, or in the third case scenario, whether you're doing a calculational question. And so let's now look at a calculational example. And so Henry's law is a good one to begin with. So again, we hit Henry's law, we're assigned to this calculational question, and much like before, we want to review the ungrouped answers. And as we look at some of these answers, we see a lot of ones that are the same. 7.11 times 10 to the fourth, maybe a little variance there, 7.14 times 10 to the fourth. But we also see other values like 28.5 in the top right-hand corner or 84.5 in the bottom left-hand corner. So in these types of calculational questions, we aren't going to group them. We are going to grade them individually. This allows us basically to state, or see rather, the work that's actually done for the question so that we can award partial credit. The answer boxes that we see here are just showing us the answer box. So realize that for every calculational question, the student must show work in order to basically prove that they got the answer that they did. So that's why we need to go through these individually. So we'll go to just simply grading answers, no grouping at all. And it says, okay, we have this many answers that we need to assign points to, and this is a pretty light number since we'll see a lot more questions when we get to the real scenario. So we continue to grading. And again, off to the right, we see the rubric is already defined for us. We have, correct, incorrect Henry's constant, incorrect pressure, miscalc, sig figs, incorrect equations to help us in our grading. And so we look at this particular question and we see that, oh, this student is actually basically almost has a miscalc because instead of keeping things in terms of atmospheres, which KH is normally in, they decided to keep everything in millimeters of mercury. And that has allowed for this answer to be a little bit off. Our answer should be 7.11 times 10 to the fourth. So I simply say, oh, that's a miscalc. I click number 4 to assign that as a miscalc, and then I go to the next ungraded question. Now the thing here to note is that we're able to see the whole pane of the question, but we also have the ability to actually minimize that window or enlarge that window. We also have the ability, if we click and drag, to position the question in a way that's easiest for us to see. If you go down now to the left, you can actually save that view. So every exam that you open up will go directly to this question with this viewpoint. So I'm going to save that view. In this particular case, they get to the right KH. They then get to the right pressure and then convert it to the correct pressure. They also have the correct number of significant figures. So this is correct. And then I go to the next ungraded answer. And you'll notice that the pane will be exactly the same for the next exam that I go to. In this case, we can see the answer is very much off. And if we look at what's happening, it looks like they're using Dalton's law of partial pressure instead of Henry's law. So, and then they're actually kind of doing that again, putting concentration instead of KH. There's some work here, but it is definitely not even close to correct. So we find that on our rubric that, oh, you know what, these are really the incorrect equations that this student is using. And so then we click number 6 to assign the grade and then hit the next ungraded value. Here is a good example. We have our solubility. They're setting up the right equation. They've decided to be a little bit smarter and set up a ratio, but all in all, they're doing the question exactly in a correct manner, since KH is a constant. So while this might not fit our key, it is actually correct, and seeing that work actually lets me realize that it is correct, and I can assign that value by clicking the number 1 button and then going on to the next one. And so we can do that, throughout each particular one. Here again, we find the correct answer being given. The work is there. We hit correct, and we keep going. If we need to go backwards, and maybe go back, to grading submissions, notice how our left pane has somewhat collapsed. We can actually show that menu by clicking that icon with the arrow, or clicking it back so we have more of a full screen. And if we go back, it does save what we've already done. So if I go back to grading submissions, back to the original pane, notice that we've graded some of those. There's still a lot left to grade, but there is some progress there. So that is basically what we do. Once you're completely graded, that's where the calculational TA will stop grading. We do not publish grades. Only the instructors will publish the grades, so never be trying to publish them. You just simply want to grade those exams. So hopefully this helps us in our understanding of how to use Gradescope, a little bit more of a real feel to seeing how the program works. After watching this, if you have any questions, please contact myself, or any critiques or criticisms or things I can add to make the video a little bit better. Please let me know. Thank you for attending this training video, and good luck with now going into Gradescope and trying your luck at grading your assigned problems in the training format.